As I'm sure you were all eagerly anticipating, the day has finally arrived. A momentous occasion for every true anime fan's calendar, the anniversary of Eromanga Sensei's premiere. Inspiring iconic, ironic, self-hating weeb culture catchphrases, and eliciting all manner of thorough disparagement of just about every aspect of the series, this day is one for the history books. On this 1-year anniversary, though, I'd like to give some thought to what Sagiri animator Keisuke Kobayashi said in an interview about the series. Basically, I'm glad when people appreciate the overall work, but when they also pay attention to members of the staff, I'm even happier.
No thought was put into this show.
They didn't give a fuck.
Nothing was thought about, nothing was cared about, nothing had effort put into it, you know, with the exception of a
couple episodes.
A few animators here and there fucking pouring their heart into trying to make Sagiri look cute, but even then, like, none of the animation is ever, like, impressive.
Oh no.
Eromanga Sensei invites the label cynical the same way your mother invites you to come with her to your kid brother's Chuck E. Cheese birthday party. Which is to say, with the most emphatic of insistences, and with the promise of hot underage kids. It's another incest series from the writer-artist pair behind Oreimo, A1 Pictures' light novel adaptation otaku pandering cash and lowly fanservice girls love dicks, anime is trash, and so am I. However, it is because the series so readily invites this label that it serves as such a good example of why you should also flip the package over and go read the nutrition facts. Look, not all my metaphors are gonna be as good as the first one there, get off my case. What I'm saying is that you gotta put a little more thought into this shit. Was the producer who greenlit this adaptation cynically motivated? Probably, but let's hop on over to an interview with the director about the series. Yep. Yeah, from his wording here, it seems like a project he was brought onto more so than a specific work he was seeking to adapt. So the decision to make it is something we can pretty safely assume to have been won by the producers. See, this is why you do just a little bit of Googling, folks. Makes your points stronger and more convincing while also preventing you from making dumb mistakes about this stuff that perpetuate harmful misconceptions about the nature of the medium and the industry. What was I saying? Oh yeah, cynical anime, right. So the decision to adapt Eromanga was likely a cynical one. Got it. However, where discussion of the series loses the plot is when it indiscriminately blankets the entire production with that label. There wasn't just one guy really passionate about drawing a 12-year-old's panties, as Digi put it.
Yeah, it's cool that this dude has so much passion for drawing a 12-year-old's genitals. I can totally respect that.
Even though you have to admit that line is pretty hilarious. This wasn't a low-effort production, or even a low-effort production aside from 2 or 3 passionate staff members. As Keisuke Kobayashi put it, it was the director himself who gathered all these members. When it comes to creative work, the director doesn't often move himself, but in our case it was him who requested the presence of many of us. That's why many people agreed to work on this anime. I really respect him for sucking in even people that he met elsewhere. Because that's the thing, Eromanga Sensei was legitimately a Sakuga showcase. 2 people gave it the Best Character Animation designation in Sakuga Boru's 2017 Animation Roundup, and one of them who I've praised for their strong animation-focused content gave it that award while calling it a dreadful show, in part because of how objectionable its content is. There were a lot of great animators on this show, and while of course the judgment that there were no outright impressive cuts is fair insofar as it's a subjective one, it should be noted that things like this food cut definitely had a ton of effort poured into it, and was receiving tons of praise on places like Twitter from other talented animators for just how impressive they at least found it to be. The man behind that cut, Nakaya Onsen, is one of the industry's rising superstars, part of a bit of a new wave of the web generation that has a deep interest in portraying nuanced emotions and character acting, in addition to the flashy wild action that characterized webgen at the outset. Onsen is particularly relevant here because he is so skilled that you do actually need to have a higher budget to get his animation. His minimum rate for animation is above the generally standardized industry rate, and action or nuanced character acting will cost upwards of 3 times that already higher asking price. Beyond just that, unless you pay extra, he'll simply choose to work on which series most interest him. Relatively few animators work like this, so this situation is not too common. But because of Onsen's presence, characterizing Eromanga as some cheap, minimum resource, soulless production as some have done, really just can't be done without being incorrect.
Because they didn't put another animator on there. They put one guy. They could have put as many animators as they wanted. The show made tons of money.
A1 shelled out the extra cash to get this guy on, perhaps at the request of director Ryohei Takeshita, who, as we heard in that interview excerpt, brought in much of that talent that came to Eromanga Sensei to lend their efforts. I can't counter the claim that there were only a couple animators of note on the show by just offering up the pair of Onsen and Kobayashi though, so allow me to flesh out this impressive staff list a bit. If we want to talk about rising superstars, then China deserves the moniker even more so than Onsen. China made his professional animation debut at age 16 and became anime's youngest episode director with his handling of Long Riders Episode 3, before moving on to direct Eromanga Sensei's OP at age 21. Their trust in the young animator paid off as he delivered a fun sequence filled with the lively character action he specializes in, and was helped along by the similarly minded friends he has in the industry and was able to bring on to add to that effort. And, because there's so many things about this show's production that impress upon closer inspection, Eromanga's ED was a solo-key animation endeavor, rendered for us by yet another exciting youngster, Shu Sugita. It seems like wherever you turn with this series, there's an aspect of it whose production warrants note. Did I mention that Eromanga was one of only 7 shows from its season that was able to avoid subcontracting any of its episodes? And whose contributors impress. Among Sugita's body of work is this absolutely stellar cut from Konosuba 2 that I've raved about before, and if you're noticing a trend here age-wise, Kobayashi might be able to confirm your suspicions. This was indeed a very young production. Everyone up to the director himself is young. As his discussion of how he came to direct Eromanga Sensei indicated, this series was his first chance to direct a series of his own, and after outstanding episode director work like handling perhaps the best episode of Flip Flappers, the delightfully atmospheric episode 5, the fact that he was able to debut with this commercially successful project is deeply exciting. With this accomplishment under his belt, he'll be in a position to do even more work in the future. Hopefully something original that allows that creativity he's teased to be showcased in full. Beyond just being a young production though, Eromanga Sensei feels like, yes, a passionate production. That interview describes the workplace as fun and harmonious, and while you can only trust this PR speak so far to tell you the truth if the vibe was instead more cynical and uncaring, the presence of someone like Onsen, who gets to pick which projects he wants to go work on, along with all these other talented youngsters I didn't even get to go over.
But they got one guy.
Noriyuki Imaoka,
Because they didn't put another animator on there. They put one guy.
Masayuki Nonoka,
They could have put as many animators as they wanted.
lead far more convincingly to the conclusion that this was something the people involved were happy to be involved with and gave their alls to. As I mentioned earlier, the distastefulness of the source material and seeming cynicism of the decision to adapt it tempt one to write off the entire effort as itself cynical. But from everything I'm able to see, from all the info on it I'm able to go over, this series seems like one of those examples of what I like to call an animator jam session. A group of animators that know and are friendly with each other had an opportunity to all come together and contribute towards this series. Hakuyu Go, the episode director for Fate Apocrypha's own jam session, episode 22, came in to do some animation for his buddy China's OP, returning the favor for China's contributions on that episode. And other animators on it, like Nakaya Onsen, also show up on this production. For one of the 2 episodes where Takeshita served as episode director himself, Kiyotaka Oshiyama, the director of Flip Flappers, provided animation, helping out his show's former episode director. There's a collaborative atmosphere here, a social one, and remember that these are animators. Their primary passion is animation. Animating a cute little sister character, whether she wants to fuck her brother or not, is from a creative animation standpoint similarly engaging. That producer-level cynicism does not somehow trickle down and affect every aspect of the series. Animation is fun to make, and nothing about Eromanga Sensei has to prevent that creative joy of this craft from being present in these artists' work on this series. There was a clear boxing in of the show and all that it could be right from the initial premise, but what I hope I accomplished in laying out all these things that contradict that narrative is inspiring in you a greater appreciation for all the passionate artists who work within the sometimes cynical anime industry. An appreciation of the fact that often the easy, obvious conclusion doesn't actually describe the situation accurately. Yes, one of 2017's most safely trope-laden, fetish-pandering series was also one of the year's largest and most enthusiastic convergences of the next generation of industry talent. I take no issue with anyone remembering Eromanga Sensei as a bad series as the years go on. There's certainly plenty of content here that makes that judgment a fair one. However, what it should not be remembered as is a series that was low effort, or largely passionless, because that erases all the hard work and genuine creative energy of so many people who deserve so much more credit than their industry currently gives them. Let's not end up taking some of that meager credit away out of simple, avoidable ignorance. Hey, it's me, I'm back again, this time slightly less sleep deprived, but I do mean slightly. A few housekeeping notes. I have been moved from a salaried monthly employee status with Jeff for the editing to a lower workload contractor style arrangement. As a result of that, I will have more time to work on videos, but also a little less cash in my pocket from the big man in the basement himself. So, if you could toss a few buckaroos at me over on Patreon if you aren't doing so already, be much appreciated. YouTube still doesn't show most of your subscribers your videos, so click the bell, I guess, is what I'm supposed to say. I don't know, fuck it. And for those people who are already patrons, huge shout out, huge thank you to Psyker, Carkeys, MathWiz97, Jonathan Conley, Skylar Morrow, Tyler Monk, Sakamoto Mio, Tincho37, Josh Grant, Lord Liquid Bacon II, Stella Luna, Joaquim Aldfelt, Darian De Sotel, Azure Zero, David McCown, Kieran Rice, Jort Dog, and Matt Bekelder. And all the rest of you lovely people, of course. Thanks.